Best Bites Forever.
Hey everyone, I'm Chef Alicia, and in this video you're going to learn how to make these pumpkin pretzels. The first thing that I'm doing is adding 3/4 of a cup of milk into a small saucepan, and I'm putting this on medium heat on the stove. Next, I'm adding in 3/4 of a cup of pureed pumpkin. You can use a store-bought canned pumpkin if you would like to, or I happen to be using a pumpkin puree that I made myself, and you can get this recipe in my videos. So I'm bringing this up to 105 degrees, and you want to use a thermometer if you happen to have one. I'm kind of guessing with my finger because I'm at a hotel and I don't have my thermometer with me. So anyway, into that I'm adding 1 1/4 teaspoons of yeast. And I'm just going to stir that around a little bit to kind of get the yeast mixed in. The next thing that I'm adding is 1/4 cup of brown sugar, and I want to stir this up until it dissolves. Put that over to the side, and now I have a medium-sized bowl. I have 3 cups of flour in there, along with 1 1/2 teaspoons of kosher salt, and I'm just going to stir those together so that the salt is mixed in there evenly with the flour. Next, I'm going to add in 1/2 cup of brown sugar, then that also has a teaspoon of pumpkin spice mixed in with it. And I'm going to stir that around to get it nice and mixed in with the flour and salt. Make a little well in the middle and then add in your milk and pumpkin puree mixture. And I'm also adding in 2 tablespoons of melted butter. I did cool that butter just a little bit, but it needs to be melted, and that's also why you need that nice warm milk, not just for the yeast, but so that your butter doesn't solidify when you pour it into the mixture. Don't worry, I will have a complete list of ingredients at the end of this video in case you're trying to write them down. Don't worry about it. At the very end there's a list. You can just pause on it. So I'm going to stir this until it's really well mixed in. It's going to be a pretty sticky dough, so just expect that to happen. The next thing I'm doing is turning my dough out onto a nice floured surface. So when I do my floured surface, I like to kind of do a thin pile in the middle and then kind of little piles on the outside. That way I can grab it as I need it. I'm also going to spray some cooking spray into my bowl and flour my hands as well as the top of the dough. Now I'm ready to knead my dough. This takes 4 to 6 minutes, and it really just depends on, I guess, how hard you knead it. But I do it as hard as I can, and it still takes me right around 5 minutes. So to knead your dough properly, you're going to fold it over, push it down, and turn it. That's the process of kneading. Add flour as you need to if you come across little sticky spots. So this is what it looks like after 4 minutes of kneading the dough, and I'm just going to do it here for another minute or 2. And as you can see, my dough is stiffening up and it's looking really nice here. When I feel like my dough is where I need it, I'm going to go ahead and put it into that bowl and let it rise for about 2 hours until it's doubled. So here's just a little tip for you. If you happen to have one of these bench scrapers, it makes cleanup like 1,000 times easier, and they're not very expensive. You can get them at any cooking store, probably even Amazon or one of those. So anyway, here's my little dough. I'm going to spray cooking spray on top of it, and then I'm going to cover it up with foil because that's what I happen to have. I've made my little sugar and pumpkin spice mixture, and I made that with 2 tablespoons of sugar and a tablespoon of pumpkin spice. And this is the water we're going to dip the pretzels in before we bake, and that's 4 1/2 cups of water and 1/2 cup of baking soda. And I also have my Silpat ready to go here on my baking sheet, and I'm also preheating my oven at 450 degrees. So here's my lovely dough after 2 hours, and I'm just going to turn it out onto my counter where I did spray it with cooking spray, and I'm going to press the air out of it. And as I'm pressing, I'm trying to get it into like a kind of rectangle shape because that's going to make it easier for me to cut my strips. So now I'm going to use my little bench scraper or bench knife, whatever you want to call it, and I'm going to cut my dough into strips. And then take each strip and kind of pull on them and squeeze them at the same time. You can be fairly gentle with it because this is a really soft dough and it's very easy to work with. So once you get this strand about 18 to 20 inches long, just depending on how big you want your pretzels to be, but mine is going to be about 18 to 20 inches and about as thick as my finger, you just hold it up in the air and make a little U shape and kind of twist it and lay it down, and that'll form a pretzel. So I am going to show you that just one more time so that you can kind of see how I got the shape. Again, I'm cutting a long strip here, and I'm going to kind of pull and stretch it gently until I get it nice and long, and then round it out by rolling it just like you did when you were a kid. Twist it, lay it down, and cut off the ends. I'm going to make pretzel bites with those, so I'm not worried about the ends going over. So now I have my baking soda water mixture, and this is cool. It's not hot water, but I did have it hot to get the mixture to come together, the baking soda and water. And I'm just dipping the pretzels in there quickly, and then I'm going to sprinkle on that pumpkin spice and sugar mixture. Alright, so these are ready to go onto my sheet pan, which again I have my Silpat in. If you don't have a Silpat though, you can either use cooking spray, you can do like, you know, butter and flour on it, or you could do wax paper if you wanted to, but make sure you do something because they will definitely stick. So these went into the oven at 450 degrees Fahrenheit for like 8 to 12 minutes. As soon as they come out of the oven, I'm brushing them with melted butter. And I love the butter flavor on these, so I like to really give it a lot of butter, like a nice little dose on the front as well as the back. And on the back of this pretzel, you'll notice there's some caramelization. That's because I put my sheet pan directly on top of a pizza stone because I like to get that nice caramelization on there. The next thing that I'm doing is making my icing for the pretzels, and obviously you can do this while they're in the oven, but it's 1 cup of powdered sugar along with 2 tablespoons of milk and 1/2 of a teaspoon of vanilla. And I'm using a fork to mix it together because that's what I'm going to use to drizzle it onto my pretzels. It just takes a few seconds to get it nice and mixed together. These pretzels are definitely better when they're served fresh out of the oven and nice and warm, but if you would like to, you can freeze them before you put the icing on and then just rewarm them in the oven when you're ready to serve them. And as you can see, I am just drizzling that icing right on top of them with my fork. This is what they're going to look like when they're all finished. Don't forget, there's an ingredient list at the very end for you.
Hi again, thank you so much for watching my video. Please give it a like and a thumbs up and share it with all of your friends because sharing is caring. And if you're not already a subscriber, be sure to go ahead and subscribe now. Thank you so much for watching and happy cooking, everyone.
bestbitesforever.com